If your vinyl is shipped, it's going to be rolled up for shipment, and so when you take it out of the box, it's going to have a curve to it. So you're going to want to place it onto a countertop and place something on top to give it some time to flatten out before you begin to install it. Your vinyl decal has what's called transfer tape on top of it, and it looks similar to a masking tape. And what transfer tape does is it allows you to transfer all of the letters at once to your surface instead of having to transfer each letter separately. Now you might find after you flattened out your vinyl that there's some air bubbles in here that was from the curving of the tape, and that's okay. Some of those will get out, and if they don't all come out, that's okay because the tape in the end is going to be removed anyways. So what you'll need is a credit card so that you can use it to squeegee your decal. Depending on your decal, you might have one solid piece of transfer tape on top, or you might have multiple pieces. In this case, we have multiple pieces of tape, and that's why you see kind of this line here, because we have one piece of tape and then another piece of tape layered over it. So when you're squeegeeing, what we want to do is we want to do this to make sure that the transfer tape adheres really well to the vinyl below it. And if you do have multiple pieces of tape, you just want to be careful when you're squeegeeing. This piece of tape here is the top layer of tape. So we want to move this way. We don't want to squeegee this way because you can see I'm hitting the edge of the tape, and so we don't want to end up curling that tape up. So you just need to go and figure out which tape is the top piece, and then you want to squeegee over it rather than towards it because you don't want to hit the edge. You always want to start in the center of your design and squeegee outwards, and then you can come this way. And it's okay to squeegee down as long as we don't start above this tape line to hit it. So if you start just below the seam, you can still do it that way. And you always want to be working from the center out. And as you can see, so some of these air bubbles we can kind of work out. You see those are coming out. But like I said, it's not a huge deal if you can't get them out because we're just going to remove the tape anyways. So after you've squeegeed the front, you're going to turn it over. You're going to do the same thing. You're just going to squeegee from the center outward. Again, this is just to help make sure that all of the vinyl is going to stick to that tape. So what we're going to do next is we're going to make sure that we did a good job of adhering that tape to the vinyl. So you're going to turn this over so you see the grid backing. And we're going to want to pull this away from the vinyl, and we want to make sure that all the vinyl is staying down on that tape. Now you don't want to stick your finger on the vinyl itself. It's sticky. This is what's going to stick to your surface, so you don't want to be touching that. It's okay to put your finger on the sticky tape. And you only want to pull this back halfway. Now, you want to pull straight back and flat against the surface. You don't want to be pulling up towards the ceiling like this. You're going to pull halfway, and you might even find it easier, depending on it, the letter, to pull at an angle like this, but always pulling straight back, not up towards the ceiling. If your letters start coming up on with this backing, then you need to place the backing back down and re-squeegee. So we're good here. All our letters are staying down. We only want to go halfway across here. So we're then going to take this and smooth it back down. And then we're going to turn from the other, pull up from the other side. You might find it easier to turn it around if you're right-handed. And then we're going to pull this back. Again, straight back, not up towards the ceiling. We're only going to go halfway. Make sure that that all stays down, and it does. And then we want to smooth this back down. Now that you have your vinyl ready to transfer to your surface, you're going to want to take some measurements to make sure that you have the vinyl level before you apply it. This black surface is what we're going to be attaching our vinyl to, and we're going to center it top to bottom and left to right. So what we'll want to do is we'll want to take some measurements from here and here to make sure that they're equal. And same thing down here and here. And then we'll want to make sure the measurements here and here are equal. When you're making your measurements, you want to make sure you're always measuring to the letter itself and not to the paper or the tape, because that is not level. So always measure to the actual letter. Now in this case, our font is 3 inches and the surface we're applying it to is 7 inches tall. So that might seem pretty easy. Basically, we want 2 inches above and 2 inches below the letters, but it's not quite that easy. And the reason has to do with how font sizing works. And to explain how font sizing works, I'm going to use a printout to demonstrate this. Curved letters like C's and O's are designed to extend slightly above and below the height of straight letters to create visually balanced letters. So as you can see, these curved letters extend fully to this box around it. but the A and the L, which are straight on the top and bottom, you can see some minor spacing here. So in actuality, the C and the O are 3 inches, whereas the A and the L are 2.87 inches. So again, with a 3-inch font and then a 7-inch surface area, I'm going to want 2 inches above and 2 inches below my C. So if we think of 2 inches and we set that to 2, this one we don't want to just automatically measure 2 down and have our L meet that 2 because it's already a little bit smaller than the C. And I'm going to exaggerate this here just for demonstration purposes, but if we were to have this meet the 2-inch mark just like we did the C, you can see our vinyl is not going to be level. So in actuality, what you want to be measuring is more so that this distance here, I'm going to switch back to the vinyl so we can see it in full. We want to make sure that the distance from the top of the C to the top of our surface and the distance from the bottom of the C to the bottom of the surface is equal. And then the distance from the top of the L to here and the bottom of the L to here is also equal, but not necessarily this being equal to that, just because this L is smaller. Once you have your measurements made and your vinyls in the correct position, we're going to use either masking tape or painter's tape and put it over the center, and this is called the center hinge method. So you're going to take your tape and you're going to run it down the center of your vinyl, smooth it down. Then place 2 extra pieces of tape over the left-hand side to secure it. Then what you're going to do is you're going to pull up the tape from one side and all your lettering should be attached. And you're going to cut away the backing. And then you're going to slowly lay this down, rubbing back and forth until this is attached to your surface. Then you can use your credit card and you can squeegee it down to make sure that it's stuck well. Once it's stuck well, you can go ahead and peel off the center tape and the 2 other pieces of tape that you put on there. Then you're going to peel it back from this way. Pull out this remaining piece of backing, and then you're going to slowly smooth this down. And then again, squeegee. Always want to be squeegeeing from the center out. If you're getting air bubbles in the tape, it's not a huge deal because you're going to remove this tape. You just don't want air bubbles in the vinyl itself. So then when it's time to remove the tape, like I said in the beginning, you may have a single layer of tape or you might have multiple layers. Just start with the top layer if you have multiple. If you just have one, you start anywhere. But you're going to pull the tape straight back. You don't want to lift up towards the ceiling, but you want to pull straight back. And go slowly, and you just want to make sure that all the vinyl pieces stay down on the surface. And then once you have it down, you can go over with your fingers. Just make sure everything's nice and adhered on there. At this point, you do not want to use the credit card because you could end up catching on one of the letters and lifting it up. So you just want to use your fingers and just kind of go over it, apply pressure, make sure nothing lifted up.